everybody. Um, Welcome back to another episode of Just the Tip with Dr. Vic. Victoria Hartman. I am the executive director of the Erotic Heritage Museum here in Las Vegas and a clinical sexologist, and I'm doing a weekly series for the Deja Vu Love Boutiques called Just the Tip with Dr. Vic, and we do different stuff every week. Um, Sometimes we have guests on, sometimes we have conversations about some of the new exhibits that are going into the museum, and sometimes I just talk about sex related stuff. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I do still have some things on the show agenda coming up. We just put in an exhibit of this really cool sculpture that I want to show you guys. And we got some really awesome stuff that's starting to happen at the museum. So I'm going to try to broadcast from the museum one of these days and get you guys caught up on that. But today, actually, I wanted to talk about a topic that kind of came up in the episode with Carol Queen last week, where we talked about pegging and, in particular, the use of toys with a base. Okay. And she made sure to point that out. That you want to stick to playing with toys that have a base, because otherwise they can disappear. So, in that topic, people have kind of mentioned it to me that the topic of pegging was really interesting to them. So, I pulled up some articles on pegging. This probably isn't going to be a very long episode because there's a lot of information out there online. And those of you who have watched me by this time, are pretty clear that in most cases in consensual sexual activity, I'm going to support. I have a very strong belief that how people express themselves sexually is just okay, and and is up to the individual. And if they have consenting partners that are participating with them and having a good time, hey, let the good times roll. So let's have a brief conversation about pegging today, okay? So let's see. I pulled up an article that was written by Karen Fratty in 2017, and I read through it, and I think the same sort of attitude and the things that she wrote about hold true today too, only 4 years ago. So okay, so let's talk about what is pegging. Right now, it's usually reserved to describe the act of heterosexual couples with the woman and man flipping the traditional gender scripts and her banging the man, if you want to use that terminology. I think that's kind of limited, even though that is an adequate description. Obviously, it's limited because there are lesbians also that use strap-ons and so that they can penetrate their partners vaginally and anally. Now, some feminists has commented of, is this a penis envy? Do we have to have a penis, or a penis-like device or object to get an orgasm? Um, and then there's a power dynamic between a bottom and a top. And, the one doing the penetrating has the power, and the one that is being penetrated, the roles have been flipped. But I think also that's a little bit too limited a description because you could have a bottom who's directing the penetration. So I don't want to get too much into like black and white descriptions of what pegging is. Okay. Having said that, the gender flipping dynamic is really attractive to some people. There can be real power in not only being the penetrator, but the penetratee in the submission in the act, right? Um, so I think, it leads me into the second part of this video. When you have these dynamics that are flipping that we're so ingrained to exhibiting with our partners, these rigid gender roles, right? Well, it really promotes conversation. Like you want to have a conversation with your partner, not just, oh, let's, experiment with pegging, but also communicate about what that means and how that feels. And, at the core of any kind of sexual experience is what you want to do, kind of desires you have, and how you feel about those desires, right? So It really stirs conversation. How did you feel about that? Did you feel odd? Did you like it? Why did you like it? So forth. I think pegging is a really great way to open up a lot of doors in conversation and how it feels to be the penetrator and the penetratee. And I got a little puppy here that's grumbling that I'm moving around too much. um, okay, so the other thing that comes with that conversation is a lot of men who, heterosexual men especially, who enjoy that act, the act of being pegged, sometimes struggle with, well, does that mean I'm gay? Okay. Well, this, first of all, let's talk about, does that mean I'm gay? There's nothing wrong with being gay. Okay. So maybe I'm simplifying it a little bit too much, but there's nothing wrong with being gay. That being said, we're talking about a sex act. And there's parts of the anatomy in men who are, who the stimulation of, say, the prostate gland leads to some really intense orgasms. Okay. So why wouldn't you want to stimulate that? Right. I mean, that's my opinion. If it feels good, why wouldn't you want to do it? So the act of pegging or being pegged, say if you're a heterosexual man, has nothing to do with your sexual orientation. It has to do with what feels good. Um, so for those that are concerned about that, consider that, right? It's a sex act that feels good. Has nothing to do with your sexual orientation. Okay. Now that we put that to rest, it this conversation about men liking being pegged. There's a stereotype. Well, let's go back to the gay thing, right? Um, well, it must mean I'm gay if I like being pegged. That assumes that all gay men, enjoy being penetrated. That's not true. Not all gay men enjoy being penetrated. Sometimes they just want to be the penetrator and not the receiving partner. So the idea that because someone is gay, they like being penetrated goes right out the window. Not all gay men like being penetrated. Okay. It can bring on phenomenal orgasms in those that want to experiment with it, or that those who actually do have that as part of their sexual practices. Okay, so now we've gone through these three different aspects. Well, what about a fourth one? When you're experimenting with this particular act, with pegging, okay, you're opening the door to having conversation about a lot of different things: gender expression, sexual expression, orientation. Well, that's going to lead you down the road to talking about a lot of other stuff. Well, maybe there are other toys you like. Maybe there are other things you want to experiment with. Maybe you have other kinks that you want to, um, start exploring with your partner, or with, if you're not in a non-monogamous relationship, with other folks that your partner might not be interested in exploring it with you, and you can do that with other partners. So that's where we come back to, well, that's when you go to, places like the Love Boutique and so forth, with your partner and or partners, and you explore, well, what else am I going to like? I explored pegging, I really liked it, what else am I going to like? So pegging is, I think, one of those unique sexual explorations that opens a lot of doors to a lot of other things, and really kind of throws power dynamics and gender roles on its head. Um, Now, for the, let's say we're talking about a heterosexual couple, for the woman, there are different kinds of devices, different kinds of toys that she can use in this, fun aspect of sexual exploration. Some of the dildos, are strapped on. They have harnesses and so forth. Some aren't. Some actually have like a bulb at the other end that's inserted into the vagina, where she's got to hang on to that while she's, penetrating her partner. That takes a lot of muscle tone and can be really good for, pelvic exercises and so forth, as long as it's done, um, carefully. And also, you have to have conversation about the, for folks that aren't used to penetrating others or being penetrated, if it's getting too rough or if it's too gentle. There's this constant conversation about what the experience is. So there's the sexologist recommendation for pegging. Take your time, explore your gender roles, explore your sexual expression, um, take caution, make sure that you are checking in with each other as you go along, and go to let that conversation open the door to other conversations about other things that you might like. And that's well, that kind of covers it for today. Oh, you know what? We've already gone 10 minutes. It's amazing how fast this time goes when we're having these conversations. So, with that, I'm going to leave you for today. Hopefully, I can get into the museum next week and show you guys that new sculpture that I really want to show you. And yeah, I think that's it. So, check out the Love Boutique, explore some of the cool things that they have there and some of the ways that you can expand your sexual practices with those that you are intimate with. And I will see you next week. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.